The massive ship Bone Crusher cut through the darkness of space like a knife through flesh. Its hull was black as the void itself, covered in sharp spikes and jagged edges that told any who saw it that death had come calling. Inside the ship's command center, Commander Zektar stood 8 feet tall, his reptilian form casting long shadows across the metal floor. His scales gleamed dark green in the red light of the bridge, and his yellow eyes held the cold stare of a predator who had never known defeat. "Report," Zektar's voice rumbled through the chamber, each word carrying the weight of 3 centuries of conquest. Lieutenant Karvash, slightly smaller but no less dangerous than his commander, stepped forward. His claws clicked against the datapad he carried. "The trading station at Zarian Prime has fallen, Commander. The inhabitants surrendered within hours of our arrival. They now serve the Dominion as ordered." Zektar's thin lips pulled back in. What might have been a smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Good. Another world learns to fear the children of Kethmoran. How many does this make?" 47 star systems, Commander. All bow before the might of the Veil-3. The bridge crew, a dozen reptilian warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall, straightened with pride. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, born on a world where acid rain fell every day and where massive beasts hunted in packs of 50. Their homeworld of Kethmoran had forged them into the perfect killing machines. No species they had encountered could match their strength, their speed, or their sheer brutality. "Sir," came a voice from the sensor station. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the outer rim. A small system with a single inhabited world." Zektar turned his attention to the young technician. "Details. The planet appears to be mostly water, sir, blue and green in color. Our scans show it's teeming with life. The dominant species calls themselves humans according to their transmissions." "Humans," Zektar repeated the word slowly as if tasting it. "Never heard of them. What do we know of their military strength?" The technician's claws danced across his console. "Minimal, Commander. They appear to have only recently developed space travel. Their vessels are primitive, barely capable of reaching their own system's edge. They have no real weapons to speak of." Karvash stepped closer to the main display screen as it showed the blue-green world spinning slowly in space. "They look soft, Commander, like all the others we've crushed." "Indeed," Zektar agreed. "Signal the fleet. We set course for this Earth. It's time these humans learned what it means to face the children of the Deathworld." As the great ship changed course, its engines thundering through the void, Zektar thought about his homeworld. Kethmoran was a place of constant death and violence. The very air was toxic to most life forms, and the ground itself was soaked with acid that could melt through metal. Giant predators roamed the surface in massive packs, their howls echoing across the barren wastelands. Only the strongest survived to adulthood, and only the most vicious rose to command. The Veil-3 had conquered every world they had encountered. With ease, the soft-skinned aliens of Proxima had wept when they saw the Veil-3 ships. The crystalline beings of the Andra system had shattered in fear. The gas-breathing creatures of the Veil Nebula had simply stopped fighting and accepted their fate as slaves. None had ever stood against the might of the Veil-3 Dominion. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue world orbiting a yellow star, Dr. Lisa Carter sat in her laboratory beneath the Colorado Mountains. The Global Defense Initiative had been monitoring space for decades, listening for signs of intelligent life among the stars. Today, her equipment had picked up something that made her blood run cold. "Colonel Morrison," she spoke into her communication. "Device," her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. "We have a problem." Jake Morrison had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in conflicts across 3 continents and had seen humanity at its worst and best. But as he looked at the data Dr. Carter had sent him, he felt something he had rarely experienced in his military career: complete uncertainty. "How big are they?" he asked, studying the sensor readings. "The lead ship is over 2 miles long," Carter replied. "The smaller ones are each the size of a city block. There are 12 ships total, moving in formation toward our system." Morrison rubbed his weathered face. Any attempt at communication? They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is simple: surrender or face extinction. They call themselves the Veil Three, and they claim to be from something called a death world. Death world? Morrison had to suppress a laugh. What makes their world so deadly? Carter read from the alien transmission. According to their message, their planet has acid, rain, toxic air, and massive predators that hunt in packs. They say, no species has ever matched their strength or survived their homeworld's dangers. Morrison looked out the window of his office at the Rocky Mountains rising in the distance. Those peaks had been shaped by forces that could split continents. Below them, the earth occasionally shook with power that could level cities. To the west, the Pacific Ocean held storms that could tear apart anything man-made. To the east, the Great Plains spawned tornadoes that could pick up trains and throw them like toys. Doctor, Morrison said slowly, do they know what kind of world they're approaching? I don't think so, Colonel. Their scans seem focused on our technology and population centers. They don't appear to understand our planet's natural systems. As Morrison began making calls to mobilize Earth's modest defense fleet, he couldn't shake the feeling that these aliens had made a terrible mistake. They claimed to be from a death world, but they were coming to Earth, a planet where humans had learned to survive ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts. A world where children played in environments that would kill most alien species. Captain Amy Rodriguez received the alert while conducting routine patrol near the edge of the solar system. Her ship, the New Horizon, was one of humanity's newest vessels, designed for exploration rather than combat. As she read the incoming message, she felt her heart rate increase. Hostile aliens approaching Earth, she read aloud to her crew. All ships ordered to intercept and attempt peaceful contact. Her navigator, Lieutenant Carlos Mendez, looked up from his station. Captain, our weapons are designed for asteroid clearing, not ship-to-ship combat. I know, Rodriguez replied, watching the alien fleet appear on her long-range sensors. But we're all that stands between them and Earth right now. Prepare to transmit standard first contact protocols. As the New Horizon moved to intercept the alien fleet, Rodriguez couldn't help but think about her daughter playing in the backyard of their home in Florida. The same backyard where alligators occasionally wandered in from the nearby swamp, where hurricanes had torn through multiple times, and where the summer heat could kill an unprepared person in hours. She wondered if these aliens truly understood what they were about to face. The Veil 3 fleet continued its approach, confident in their superiority. They had never encountered a species that could match their strength or survive their homeworld's dangers. In their minds, this would be just another easy conquest. They had no idea they were about to meet the true Deathworlders of the galaxy. Captain Amy Rodriguez watched the alien fleet grow larger on her viewscreen as the New Horizon approached. 12 massive ships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could vaporize her vessel in seconds. Despite the fear crawling up her spine, she kept her voice steady as she addressed her crew. Open all communication channels, she ordered. Transmit standard first contact protocols on all frequencies. The message that went out into space was simple and peaceful. This is Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We welcome you to our solar system and wish to establish peaceful relations. Please respond if you wish to communicate. On the bridge of the Bone Crusher, Commander Zektar listened to the human transmission with growing amusement. The alien voice was soft, almost musical, compared to the harsh growls of Veil 3 speech. The message itself was pathetic in its weakness. They want to talk? Lieutenant Carvash said, his voice dripping with contempt. Like all the others before they realized their fate. Of course they do, Zektar replied. They see our ships and know they cannot win. They hope their words will save them from the inevitable. The commander stepped forward to the communication. Station, open a channel. Let these humans hear the voice of their new masters. The transmission that reached the New Horizon was harsh and filled with malice. I am Commander Zektar of the Veil 3 Dominion. You will surrender your planet. Immediately or face total extinction. We are the children of Kethmoran, the greatest death world in the galaxy. No species has ever matched our strength or survived our wrath. You have 1 hour to comply. Captain Rodriguez felt her crew's tension spike as the alien message ended. She had hoped for a peaceful contact, but these beings clearly had other plans. Can we outrun them? She asked her engineer. Chief Engineer Pete Williams shook his head. Not a chance, Captain. Their ships are faster and more powerful than anything we've ever built. But maybe we can learn something about their technology before they kill us, Rodriguez finished. I understand. Begin scanning their vessels, record everything. If we don't make it back, maybe the data will help Earth's defense. Meanwhile, Navigator Susan Clark was studying the alien formation. Captain, they're not even trying to hide their approach. They're broadcasting their position on every frequency. It's like they want everyone to know they're coming. Rodriguez nodded grimly. They're not worried about our defenses. They think this will be easy. Back on the alien flagship, Zektar was growing impatient. The human ship continued to approach instead of fleeing, which puzzled him. Most species either surrendered immediately or ran when they saw the Veil 3 fleet. These humans seemed to be doing neither. Sir, the sensor operator called out. The human vessel is scanning our ships. They're recording our weapon signatures and shield frequencies. Interesting, Zektar mused. They're not begging for mercy. They're gathering intelligence. He turned to his weapons officer. Destroy them. Show these humans what happens to those who defy the Dominion. The New Horizon had no chance. Plasma beams erupted from the alien ships, tearing through the human vessel's hull like paper. Emergency alarms screamed as the ship began to break apart. But instead of panic, Rodriguez heard something that made her proud. Her crew working together, fighting to save their ship and their lives. Hull breaches on all decks, Pete Williams reported, his hands flying over his controls. I'm sealing what I can, but we're losing atmosphere fast. Escape pods, Rodriguez ordered. Everyone to the escape pods. Transmit all our data to Earth immediately. As the crew scrambled for the pods, Susan Clark grabbed the communication system. This is the New Horizon to Earth defense. They're hostile. They're coming. Ships are bigger than anything we imagined. They think we're weak. They're wrong. The message went out just as the ship's main power failed. The escape pods launched seconds before the New Horizon exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Commander Zektar watched the destruction with satisfaction. Another lesson taught. Signal the fleet. We continue to the main world. But Lieutenant Carvash was studying the escape pods on his scanner. Sir, should we destroy the survivors? No, Zektar decided. Capture them. I want to see what these humans are like when they face the children of Kethmoran. Perhaps they'll provide entertainment before we enslave their species. The escape. Pods were pulled into the alien ship's cargo bay. As the airlocks opened, armed Veil 3 warriors entered, expecting to find cowering aliens begging for their lives. Instead, they found something that confused them. Pete Williams was already studying the walls of the cargo bay, his engineer's mind cataloging every detail of the alien technology. Despite a bleeding wound on his forehead, he was taking mental notes about the ship's construction and power systems. Susan Clark had her back to the wall, her eyes moving constantly as she memorized the layout of the area. She was mapping escape routes and counting guards, preparing for any opportunity to break free. Marine Sergeant Lisa Johnson, who had been aboard the New Horizon as a military advisor, was tense and ready. Her hand kept moving toward where her weapon should be, and her eyes never left the alien guards. The Veil 3 warriors looked at each other in confusion. Where was the fear? Where was the desperation? These humans acted like they were planning something instead of accepting their fate. Bring them to the detention cells, the lead warrior ordered. The commander will want to speak with them. As the humans were led through the ship's corridors, Pete Williams continued his analysis. The alien technology was advanced but not beyond human understanding. The ship's design had flaws that could be exploited. Most importantly, these aliens relied too heavily on their technology and not enough on creative thinking. Susan Clark was making her own observations. The guards were overconfident, barely paying attention to their prisoners. The ship's layout was logical but predictable. There were multiple ways to move through the vessel, and the aliens didn't seem to consider that their prisoners might try to escape. Lisa Johnson was studying the guards themselves. They were big and strong, but they moved like they had never faced real resistance. Their weapons were powerful but clumsy. Their armor had obvious weak points. These aliens had been winning for so long that they had forgotten how to fight opponents who fought back on Earth. The message from the New Horizon had reached the Global Defense Initiative. Dr. Lisa Carter was coordinating with military commanders around the world as they prepared for the alien arrival. "They destroyed our ship without any attempt at negotiation," Colonel Morrison reported to the Emergency Council. Captain Rodriguez's final transmission confirms they're hostile and overconfident. "What about our defenses?" asked General Patricia. Haze from the Pentagon. Morrison pulled up tactical displays. "Our space-based weapons are limited. We have orbital platforms designed for asteroid defense, but nothing that can match what destroyed the New Horizon. However, we have advantages they might not expect." Dr. Carter looked up from her analysis of the alien broadcasts. "They keep talking about their death world. According to their transmissions, their planet has acid rain that falls every day, toxic air that kills most life forms and predators that hunt in packs of 50. "And they think that makes them tough?" Morrison asked. "Apparently," Carter replied. "They've been broadcasting these facts like they're supposed to terrify us. They seem to think no other species has ever faced such dangers." Morrison walked to the window overlooking the Rocky Mountains. In the distance, storm clouds were gathering, promising another of the violent thunderstorms that regularly swept across the region. "Doctor, have you ever been in a tornado?" "No, sir, I have. In Kansas when I was younger. The wind can pick up a house and throw it like a toy. The hail can kill you if you're caught outside, and that's just spring weather in the Midwest." Carter began to understand. "You think they don't know what they're walking into?" "I think they're about to get an education," Morrison replied. "Signal all defense units. We're going to show these aliens what a real death world looks like." As the alien fleet continued toward Earth, both sides were preparing for a confrontation that would shatter assumptions and change everything. The Veil Three were confident in their superiority, but they had never faced a species that had learned to survive on a planet that regularly tried to kill them. The real Deathworlders were about to meet their match. The first Veil 3 landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like dark meteors, their hulls glowing red from the heat of entry. Commander Zektar had chosen multiple landing sites across the planet to demonstrate the futility of resistance. The largest force would land near Denver, Colorado, where human military forces were known to be stationed. Sergeant Rick Davis crouched behind a concrete barrier at Peterson Air Force Base, watching the alien ships touch down in the distance. His squad of 12 soldiers was all that stood between the aliens and the base's communication center. The enemy vessels were massive, each one the size of a city block, and they disgorged hundreds of reptilian warriors. "Remember what command told us," Davis spoke into his radio. "Their armor is strong against energy weapons, but it has weak points. Aim for the joints and the neck area. Stay mobile and use the terrain." The first wave of Valkyrie warriors advanced across the open ground with the confidence of predators who had never faced real opposition. They stood 8 feet tall, their dark scales gleaming in the morning sun, plasma rifles held ready. They expected the humans to flee or surrender as every other species had done. Instead, they walked into a carefully planned ambush. Davis and his squad had positioned themselves in the rocky terrain that surrounded the base. When the aliens came within range, the humans opened fire with everything they had. Bullets sparked off alien armor, but some found their mark in the gaps between scales. The Veil 3 roared in surprise and pain as several of their number fell. "They're bleeding," Private Kelly Martinez called out over the gunfire. "They can be hurt." The aliens quickly regrouped and returned fire with their plasma weapons. The rocky ground around the human positions exploded into steam and molten stone. But the humans had already moved, using the natural landscape to stay ahead of the alien targeting systems. "These aren't like the others," Lieutenant Carvash reported to his commander as he took cover behind a damaged human vehicle. "They fight back. They use tactics. All species fight when cornered." Commander Zektar's voice crackled through the communication system. "Break their will to resist. Show them the fury of Kethmoran." But the humans refused to break. For every position they lost, they fell back to another, prepared defensive line. They turned abandoned buildings into fortresses and used the city's infrastructure against the invaders. When the aliens tried to advance through the streets, they found roads blocked and buildings rigged to collapse. Meanwhile, aboard the alien flagship, the captured humans were revealing disturbing information about their homeworld. Pete Williams sat in his detention cell, apparently defeated, while his Valkyrie guard tried to intimidate him with stories of their deadly planet. "You know nothing of true danger," the guard hissed, his yellow eyes gleaming. "On Kethmoran, acid rain falls every day. The very air burns your lungs. Predators hunt in packs of 50, their claws sharp enough to cut through metal." Pete looked up with interest rather than fear. "Acid rain every day? That sounds rough. Back home, we get hurricanes that can pick up entire buildings and throw them around like toys. The winds can reach over 200 miles per hour. People die if they get caught outside." The guard's confidence wavered slightly. "Hurricanes? Big storms," Pete explained casually. "They happen every year, sometimes multiple times. We've learned to predict them and build shelters, but they still destroy whole cities sometimes. Then there are the tornadoes. Those are smaller but more focused. They can appear anywhere with almost no warning." Susan Clark in the next cell overheard the conversation. "Don't forget the earthquakes, Pete. Remember the one in California last year? The ground literally split open and swallowed buildings." "Oh, right," Pete nodded. "The earthquakes. The planet's crust is constantly moving, so the ground shakes regularly. Sometimes it's mild, sometimes it levels entire cities. We've learned to build structures that can handle it, but it's always a risk." The Valkyrie guard looked confused. "Your planet tries to kill you with weather?" "Weather, geology, biology," Susan added cheerfully. "The oceans are full of predators that can bite through steel. Great white sharks, killer whales, giant squids. Some people swim with them for fun." "For fun?" the guard repeated, his voice climbing higher. Lisa Johnson spoke up from her cell. "I grew up in Florida. We had alligators in our backyard regularly. 12-foot-long predators with jaws that can snap a man in half. My dad used to wrestle them away from our pool. Said it was good exercise." The guard backed away from the cells, his scaled face showing the first signs of doubt. "You're lying. No species could survive such conditions." "We don't just survive," Pete said with a grin. "We thrive. Some of us seek out danger for entertainment. Mountain climbing, where the air is too thin to breathe and one wrong step means falling thousands of feet. Deep sea diving, where the pressure would crush your body and the cold would kill you in minutes. Volcano watching, where we get as close as possible to molten rock that's hot enough to melt metal." Down on Earth's surface, the battle for Denver was revealing more truths about human nature. The Valkyrie had superior technology and physical strength, but they were learning that humans had something they had never encountered: adaptability born from surviving on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Sergeant Davis and his surviving squad members had been forced back into the city's underground tunnel system. The aliens followed, confident that they had the humans trapped. Instead, they found themselves in a maze of passages that the humans knew intimately. "This is where we make our stand," Davis told his remaining soldiers. "They're bigger and stronger, but they don't know these tunnels. They don't know how to fight in confined spaces." The battle in the tunnels was brutal and close. The Valkyrie's size worked against them in the narrow passages, while the humans moved through the darkness like they had been born to it. Every turn held an ambush, every intersection a trap. "How do they see in this darkness?" One alien warrior asked his companion as they stumbled through a collapsed section of tunnel. They grew up in caves, another replied, remembering something from their intelligence briefings. Their planet has underground systems. What they didn't understand was that humans hadn't just adapted to underground environments. They had learned to fight in every conceivable terrain because Earth offered every conceivable challenge. Dense forests where visibility was limited to a few feet, frozen wastelands where exposed skin would freeze in seconds, deserts where the heat could kill and the sand could bury entire cities. Back on the alien ship, Dr. Carter's analysis of the Veil 3 broadcast was being shared with the captured humans through Pete Williams' hidden communication device. The information was disturbing and enlightening. Pete, Carter's voice whispered through the tiny speaker he had concealed in his clothing. Their death world has an average temperature of 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a pleasant summer day. In most of Earth, Pete suppressed a laugh. What about the acid rain they keep talking about? pH level of about 4.5. That's roughly the same as orange juice. We have natural springs on Earth that are more acidic than their worst weather. Susan Clark shook her head in amazement. And the predators that hunt in packs of 50. Based on their descriptions, they're about the size of Earth wolves. Dangerous, yes, but humans have been dealing with wolf packs for thousands of years. We domesticated them into dogs. The implications were staggering. The Veil 3 had conquered dozens of worlds by claiming to be the ultimate predators from the harshest environment imaginable. But their death world was actually milder than many places on Earth that humans considered vacation destinations. The real revelation came when Lisa Johnson asked about the toxic atmosphere the aliens kept mentioning. It's mostly nitrogen and oxygen, Carter replied, but with a higher methane content. The toxic part comes from hydrogen sulfide, which gives it a smell like rotten eggs. Unpleasant, but not deadly? We have natural gas deposits on Earth that are far more dangerous. So their air smells bad, but it won't kill you? Johnson asked. Not unless you're incredibly sensitive to sulfur compounds. Most humans would just need to get used to the smell. The captured humans looked at each other with growing understanding. They hadn't been taken prisoner by the galaxy's ultimate predators. They had been captured by a species that had bullied weaker civilizations into submission through intimidation and superior technology, but now they were facing a species that had learned to survive ice ages, asteroid impacts, and supervolcanic eruptions. A species that had turned survival into an art form and danger into entertainment. As the battle for Earth continued, both sides were learning hard truths. The Veil 3 were discovering that their reputation as Deathworlders was about to be shattered. The humans were realizing that they might be the real apex predators of the galaxy. The war was just beginning, and the aliens were about to learn what it meant to face the children of the true Death World. The Veil 3 made their biggest mistake when they decided to establish a permanent base near Yellowstone National Park. Their sensors detected massive geothermal activity beneath the surface, which reminded them of the volcanic regions of their homeworld. Commander Zektar believed the familiar environment would give his forces an advantage. While intimidating the local humans, Kevin Turner had been a park ranger at Yellowstone for 15 years. He knew every trail, every geyser, and every dangerous feature of the park better than anyone alive. When the aliens landed their ships near Old Faithful, he immediately contacted Colonel Morrison with a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. You want to do what? Morrison asked over the secure communication line. Trigger a controlled eruption in the Norris Geyser Basin, Turner explained calmly. The aliens have set up their base right on top of a massive underground thermal system. If we can destabilize the right pressure points, we can turn their advantage into our weapon. Morrison looked at the tactical map on his screen. The alien base was positioned perfectly over one of the most geologically active areas on the planet. Can you do it without destroying half of Wyoming? I've been studying these thermal features my whole career, Turner replied. I know exactly which vents to target. The explosion won't be volcanic. but it will release enough superheated steam and toxic gases to make the area uninhabitable for anything that didn't evolve here. 3 hours later, Turner was crawling through the underground caves beneath the geyser field with a team of military explosives experts. The Veil-3 had posted guards around their perimeter, but they didn't understand the landscape well enough to watch the thermal vents and underground passages. "Here," Turner whispered, pointing to a specific rock formation. "This pressure valve controls the entire northeastern section of the thermal field. If we place the charges correctly, the chain reaction will be spectacular." Sergeant Mike Cooper, the team's demolitions expert, studied the geological formation with professional interest. "How hot will the steam get?" "About 400 degrees Fahrenheit," Turner answered. "Hot enough to cook anything caught in the open. Plus, the gases coming up from below include hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, and various other compounds that most life forms find rather unpleasant. What about us?" asked Private Jenny Walsh, who was positioning the secondary charges. Turner grinned. "We'll be fine if we get to the safe zone in time. Humans have been living around these thermal features for thousands of years. The local Native American tribes used to camp here regularly. We know how to avoid the dangerous areas." The explosions went off in sequence, each one carefully timed to create maximum pressure release. The ground around the Val-3 base began to shake as massive jets of superheated steam erupted from dozens of previously dormant vents. The air filled with the smell of sulfur and other volcanic gases that would have been deadly to most alien species. The Val-3 warriors ran for their ships in panic as the ground beneath their feet became too hot to stand on. Their heat-resistant armor, designed for the mild volcanic activity of their homeworld, was useless against the extreme temperatures erupting from Earth's thermal features. "Retreat! Retreat!" Lieutenant Carvash shouted into his communicator as he ran through clouds of scalding steam. "The planet is attacking us." From his command ship orbiting above, Commander Zektar watched his ground forces flee in confusion and terror. "What is happening down there?" "The humans have weaponized their planet's geology, sir," came the panicked reply. "The ground is erupting with heat and toxic gases. Our environmental suits can't handle the conditions." Zektar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In all their conquests, they had never encountered a species that could turn their own planet's natural features into weapons. The Veil-3 had always relied on their technology and physical superiority. These humans were using the very environment as a tool of war. Meanwhile, the captured humans aboard the alien flagship had been busy with their own plans. Pete Williams had spent days studying the ship's internal systems while pretending to be a defeated prisoner. Susan Clark had mapped out every corridor and maintenance shaft. Lisa Johnson had been observing the guards' routines and identifying their weaknesses. "Tonight," Pete whispered to his cellmates during the guards' shift change, "I've figured out how to overload their power distribution system. It will create enough chaos for us to break out." "What about getting off the ship?" Susan asked. "I've located the shuttle bay," Johnson replied. "The guards are overconfident. They barely watch the secondary exits. If we can reach one of their small craft, I can fly us out of here. You can pilot alien technology?" Pete asked. Johnson smiled grimly. "I flew helicopters in Afghanistan before joining the Marines. The basic principles of flight are universal. Besides, their controls are designed for beings with claws. Human hands are more precise." The escape began at 020 ship time when Pete triggered his carefully planned system overload. Emergency lights flickered throughout the vessel as power fluctuated wildly. In the confusion, Susan led them through the maintenance shafts she had memorized, while Johnson eliminated the few guards they encountered with techniques learned in close-quarters combat training. The alien shuttle they stole was similar to Earth aircraft, but with more advanced propulsion systems. Johnson managed to get it airborne and away from the main ship before the Veil-3 realized what had happened. However, their escape was far from over. "They're pursuing us," Susan reported from the sensor station. "Two fighter craft closing fast. Where can we go?" Pete asked as he tried to understand the alien navigation system. Australia, Johnson decided, adjusting their course toward the continent. The outback. If we can reach the interior, we'll have advantages they can't imagine. The pursuing Veil 3 pilots were confident they could recapture the escaped prisoners. Their fighters were faster and more maneuverable than the stolen shuttle. They forced the human craft down in the heart of the Australian desert, expecting an easy victory. They had never experienced anything like the Australian outback. The human shuttle crashed in a region where the daytime temperature regularly exceeded 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The nearest water source was 50 miles away across terrain filled with venomous snakes, poisonous spiders, and plants that could kill with a touch. It was a landscape that had been testing human survival skills for 60,000 years. The Veil 3 pursuit team landed their fighters near the crash site, expecting to find dead or dying humans. Instead, they discovered that Pete Williams was already rigging a solar still to extract water from the air. Susan Clark was constructing shelter from the wreckage that would protect them from the sun. Lisa Johnson was identifying which local plants were edible and which were dangerous. "How are they still alive?" one alien pilot asked his companion as they watched the humans work efficiently in conditions that should have killed them within hours. "They're adapted to this," the other replied, his voice filled with growing dread. "This is their natural environment." The Veil 3 had landed wearing full environmental suits, designed to protect them from the harshest conditions their species had ever encountered. Within 2 hours, their cooling systems were failing. The dry heat was unlike anything they had experienced on their moist, temperate homeworld. By the end of the first day, the aliens were rationing their water supplies and huddling in the shade. Of their fighters, the humans, meanwhile, were thriving. They had located water sources, identified safe places to rest, and were already planning their route to civilization. "We need to signal for rescue," one Veil 3 pilot said, his voice weak from dehydration. "No," his companion replied. "If command learns we were defeated by 3 unarmed prisoners in a desert, we'll be executed for incompetence." On the second day, the aliens watched in horror as Lisa Johnson calmly killed and prepared a venomous snake for dinner. The creature's bite would have been fatal to most galactic species, but humans had learned to hunt such predators as a food source. By the third day, the Veil 3 were too weak to continue their pursuit. They activated their emergency beacons and waited for rescue. Defeated not by human weapons or technology, but by the simple fact that Earth was more hostile than anything their species had ever imagined, the rescue came from a group of Aboriginal trackers who found the humans first. The trackers took one look at the struggling aliens and the thriving humans and immediately understood what had happened. "City folk would have died out here in hours," one tracker told Johnson as they shared water around a small fire, "but you 3 knew what to do. Good survival skills." Johnson looked back at the suffering aliens who were being loaded onto their rescue ship. "We learned from the best teachers in the galaxy. This planet has been trying to kill us for millions of years. We've gotten very good at staying alive." As news of the Australian incident reached both human and alien command structures, the balance of the war began to shift. The Veil 3 were learning that their reputation as Deathworlders was built on conquering species far weaker than themselves. The humans were discovering that they might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Commander Zektar made his final desperate decision as reports of defeat poured in from across the planet. His ground forces were being outmaneuvered by humans who used their own world as a weapon. His pursuit teams were being defeated by primitives, who thrived in conditions that killed trained Veil 3 warriors. The reputation his species had built over 3 centuries was crumbling in a matter of days. "We will break their will with one decisive strike," he announced to his remaining officers aboard the Bone Crusher. "Target their largest population center. When we destroy millions of them at once, the rest will surrender." Los Angeles sprawled beneath clear skies as the alien fleet took position above the city. 15 million people lived in the metropolitan area, making it one of the largest human settlements on the planet. Zektar believed that destroying such a massive population would finally show these stubborn humans the futility of resistance. He had no idea what he was about to face. Air Force Colonel Sandra Mitchell received the alert at March Air Reserve Base as alien ships began descending through the atmosphere above Los Angeles. She had been expecting this moment since the war began, and she was ready. "All units, this is command," she spoke into her radio as fighter jets roared to life across multiple air bases. "They want to hit LA. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten 15 million Americans." The defense of Los Angeles began with conventional military aircraft, but it quickly became something much larger. When the alien plasma beams started destroying military targets, civilian pilots began joining the fight. News helicopters, police aircraft, and even private planes filled the sky, their pilots determined to protect their city. "This is insane," Lieutenant Carvash reported to his commander as human aircraft swarmed around the Val 3 ships like angry insects. "They're using civilian aircraft as weapons. Some of them are flying directly into our ships." Zektar watched the tactical display with growing horror. The humans weren't just fighting with their military. They were throwing everything they had at the alien fleet, including aircraft that had no weapons at all. Pilots were ramming their planes into alien vessels, sacrificing their lives to damage the enemy. "These creatures are mad," he whispered. "No sane species would fight like this." But the humans were just getting started. On the ground, the people of Los Angeles were doing something the Val 3 had never seen in all their conquests. Instead of fleeing in panic, they were fighting back with whatever they could find. Construction workers used cranes to attack low-flying alien craft. Police officers coordinated with military units to set up ambush in the city streets. Firefighters turned their equipment into weapons, using high-pressure water hoses to interfere with alien sensors and communications. The moment that broke the Val 3 spirit came when a group of civilian engineers managed to bring down one of their smaller ships using nothing but construction equipment and determination. The aliens watched in disbelief as humans celebrated in the streets, then immediately began salvaging alien technology from the wreckage. "They're not just fighting us," Carvash reported, his voice filled with fear. "They're learning from us. They're taking our weapons and turning them against us." Dr. Lisa Carter was coordinating the defense from her underground command center, but she was also conducting an interrogation that would change everything. A captured Val 3 officer had been brought to her facility, and she was determined to understand these aliens once and for all. "Tell me about your homeworld," she said calmly as the alien sat restrained in the interrogation room. "Kethmoran is the harshest world in the galaxy," the prisoner replied with what remained of his pride. "Acid rain falls every day. The air burns your lungs. Predators hunt in massive packs." Carter pulled up a data file on her computer. "According to our analysis of your broadcasts, your planet has an average temperature of 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what we call pleasant weather. Your acid rain has a pH of 4.5, which is less acidic than coffee. Your predators are roughly the size of our wolves, which we domesticated thousands of years ago." The alien's confidence cracked. "Impossible. No species could survive worse conditions." "Let me tell you about Earth," Carter said quietly. "We've survived 5 mass extinction events. Asteroid impacts that darkened the sky for years. Volcanic eruptions that covered continents in ash. Ice ages that froze most of the planet solid. We didn't just survive them, we thrived afterward." She pulled up images on her screen. "This is a hurricane. Winds over 200 miles per hour, covering areas larger than your entire homeworld. This is a tornado. It can appear anywhere with almost no warning and destroy everything in its path. This is an earthquake. The ground literally tears apart and swallows buildings." The alien stared at the images in growing horror. "This is a volcano," Carter continued. "Molten rock hot enough to melt metal, shooting miles into the air. We have hundreds of them and people live right next to them. This is the ocean during a storm, waves taller than your ships, filled with predators that can bite through steel. Humans surf on these waves for entertainment." "You're lying," the alien whispered. "This is our children's playground equipment," Carter said, showing images of jungle gyms and swing sets. We teach our young to climb and fall and get back up. This is a human sporting event called football. They deliberately crash into each other at full speed while wearing minimal protection. Millions watch this for fun. The alien scales had turned pale. What kind of monsters are you? We're not monsters, Carter replied. We're survivors. We've been shaped by a planet that's been trying to kill us for millions of years. We learn to adapt, to overcome, to turn every challenge into an opportunity. Your species conquered weaker civilizations by intimidation. But you made one mistake. What mistake? You came to Earth expecting to find another weak species. Instead, you found the apex predators of the galaxy. Above Los Angeles, the battle was reaching its climax. The humans had managed to ground several alien ships and were rapidly reverse-engineering the technology. Colonel Mitchell watched as human engineers worked alongside captured alien equipment, already beginning to understand how it functioned. Ma'am, her communications officer reported, we're getting reports from around the globe. The aliens are retreating from every major engagement. Their forces are pulling back to their ships. Commander Zektar had seen enough. His proud fleet was being torn apart by a species that should have been easy prey. Humans were not just resisting. They were winning. They were taking his technology and using it against him. They were turning their own planet into a weapon. Signal all ships, he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. We withdraw from this system immediately. Sir, Karvash asked hesitantly, what do we tell the Dominion? Zektar looked at the tactical display showing human forces advancing on multiple fronts. We tell them the truth. We found the real Deathworlders of the galaxy. And we barely escaped. With our lives. As the Veil 3 fleet limped away from Earth, they sent a desperate message to their homeworld. Avoid the Sol system at all costs. The species there calls themselves humans. They are the true children of death. They make Kethmoran look like a garden world. They are what we pretended to be. On Earth, the humans began their own expansion into space. The captured alien technology gave them the tools they needed to reach the stars. General Morrison, now commanding the newly formed Earth Defense Force, looked up at the night sky with satisfaction. Dr. Carter, he said as they stood together on the observation deck of the new orbital station. What do you think we'll find out there? Carter smiled, as she watched human ships preparing for their first interstellar journeys. I think we'll find a galaxy full of species who thought they were tough. They're about to learn what real survivors look like. The message that went out to the Galactic Council was simple and direct. This is Earth. We are humans. We survived. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, and supervolcanic eruptions. We turned predators into pets and disasters into opportunities. We come in peace, but we are prepared for anything. We are ready to take our place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same.